Give us this day our daily bread. Man does not live on bread alone, but every word that comes out and from the mouth of God. Are you aware that most people don't believe that? Yeah, most people don't believe that. So give us this day our daily bread is interpreted to mean, provide for us our sustenance for each day, which is a valid interpretation. And there's also a deeper meaning to it. Our daily bread is, in fact, the word of God, otherwise known as the law of Moses or the Torah. People say, and people believe, or at least they quote, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word, say every word that comes from the mouth of God. But yet they don't believe that because they don't live it. And we often delude ourselves into believing that we believe something that we don't believe because we say we believe it, but we don't do it. What does it mean when it says that man does not live on bread alone, meaning physical bread, of course, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God? What does that mean? It means we live on every word, but people don't. They live on the words of a few words, but really they live mostly on the words of a man, actually. When it comes to the word of God, they don't live on it at all. So today we'll be talking about our daily bread, and as it's talked about in the Torah, literally the staff of bread, which is an interesting verbiage here, a staff of bread. And what is it with respect to what God is saying about this if we don't follow his word? And then what is the Torah? Really some great insights today with respect to the Torah that we have now. In what way is it different than the Torah we were supposed to have and the Torah that we will have? There is a difference, but what is the difference exactly? And this is going to be an interesting conversation that we're going to have this morning as we dive into Parasha Bechukotai, the fifth Aliyah, although we're not quite to the fifth Aliyah yet. We're still really in the third reading, but there's so much content here that we're just not able to get to. The beautiful thing about Torah study is sometimes you can just spend a good 30 minutes to an hour just talking about a letter. I'm not talking about an epistle, sigh. I'm talking about a letter, like a aleph beit letter. In this case, today we're going to be talking about a phrase. Okay, the phrase comes from Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 26, actually. And in Hebrew it says, Beshivri lechem mate lechem. I will eliminate for you or from you and now it's translated your source of bread. But I want to point out, for those of you who might know some Hebrew words, let me read this again and see if anything stands out to you that sounds interesting. Beshivre lechem mate lechem. The word I wanted you to listen to was mate, which is translated in the English source, but it literally means staff, your staff of bread. We're going to come back to that. It's going to play an important role as we discuss what is the Torah, who is the Torah, how is it different than the one we're supposed to have, how is it different than the one we're going to have, et cetera, et cetera. So good morning, Peaches, formerly from Georgia. Hope you're doing great this morning. Good morning, Nellie Grace. Good morning to you, Zeke and Yagal. Hope you're doing fantastic. Good morning, Shoshana. Good morning, Hector. Can't wait to see you guys. Good morning to Chris and Crystal. Good morning. Let's see. Who else do we have? Kriston. Good morning, Kriston. Hope you and Michelle are doing great. And Sergio and Isaac. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Luis, there she is, our awesome Aussie American. Good to see you. There's Milka, disguised this morning as her realty group, Mount Sapphire. Good morning, Micaiah. Good to see you. Who else do we have here? Good morning, Dana. Hope you're doing great and being blessed. Good morning, Leah. And good morning, Thomas. Chase Hansen. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Chase Hansen is on the scene, our reporter in the field. Good morning, Chase. Give us a traffic update when you get a chance. Good morning to you, Amita. Hope you and Pinkas are doing great and being blessed. And good morning to you, Levi. So let's look at this from the KO2 Mosh, this insights we're going to be receiving this morning. Let's see. Was there something from Rabbi Monk I was going to say? Oh, yes. Let's start with this, actually. I was going to read an insight from Rabbi Monk's commentary. Good morning, Milka. There she is. No longer disguised. And there's good morning, Hepzibah. So there's a phrase in, or a statement in verse 21. I wanted to read this commentary. Where is there it is. Where God is giving us the admonition that if we do wrong, this is what's going to happen. You know, there's consequences to our actions. Would you agree that most people don't really like consequences? Good morning, Amana. I hope you're doing great. And good morning, Ahavat. Most people just want to do what they do without any consequences for their actions whatsoever. And therefore, they don't take responsibility. I want to let you know that I find it particularly, see if you agree with me on this. Maybe you agree. I find it particularly irritating when people don't take responsibility or don't own their mistakes or provide justifications, things of that nature. Do you find that, you know, I don't know what the word is. I mean, does that bother you? You know, I was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I was in basically corporate sales and marketing and things of that nature. That's mostly what I did before I became a rabbi. And so I've been to lots of seminars and lectures and things on that, things about that with respect to, you know, customer service, dealing with issues, dealing with clients, you know, that type of thing. And you know, one thing that stuck out to me 1,000 years ago when I was going through this program was that, you know, with respect to customers, people expect there to be mistakes from time to time. You know, whatever the mistake is, and there's 1,000 different examples, of course, naturally, depending on what you're doing, where you are, where you're shopping, or what your service provider is, or whatever. So sometimes people who are not all that astute, you know, they make the mistake after having made the mistake of trying to cover the mistake with some type of justification, explanation, excuse, or something, and that just causes the customer to become more irritated. What the customer wants is resolution. First of all, an acknowledgement that a mistake was made. So sorry that happened. Our apologies. Here, let us fix that for you. And studies have proven that when that happens, the client is far more likely to continue to do even more business with that company, because now they can trust that if a mistake is made, you're going to not make excuses, you're going to own the mistake, and you're going to immediately rectify it. And now they can trust you. It builds trust. And see, the narcissist out there thinks that if they admit that they are fallible, that somehow they'll no longer be respected. It's just the opposite. The moment that we apologize, the moment we say, oh, I am so sorry, my bad, I did not realize, here, let me fix that for you. That's when trust is built. Okay, this is a very important life lesson for a lot of people, because you think, I say, I'm not talking to you necessarily, I'm talking about people in general, that people think, let me put it that way, that if they're not perfect, that they don't really have value, that they're not the best or whatever. It's just the opposite. Where does this come from, by the way? You want to take a wild guess? Anybody? Charlie? No? Okay. The pulpit. What? That's not true, because whenever I go to church, I was told that, you know, that he accepts me as I am. Yeah, I know, but think it through. You get there and what you hear is that God demands perfection, and he only wants perfection. And you are, of course, pathetic because you're not perfect. And therefore you have to believe in grace so that you can be perfect, so that he'll like you now. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. You walk into the building, you're not perfect. You know you're not perfect. You feel terrible. You're crying tears of I'm so pathetic. And you know that you have to be perfect. Otherwise, God won't like you, meaning that he won't bring you into his kingdom. So it creates a psychological disorder in which you are being mentally conditioned to believe that perfection is the standard of people who are awesome. And so now you don't want to say, I'm sorry, because I'm sorry means I made a mistake, and that means you're not perfect, and that means you're not up to that standard. Am I wrong? Please disagree if you want to and prove me that I'm wrong. So it says here in verse 21, if you behave casually with me and refuse to heed me, this is where all that I just talked about came from. Because what is this casually with me? It means that we don't want to be held responsible for our actions. And, it's like I can do it if I don't or not do it. I'm just going to behave casually with you. It's not a big deal if I follow or don't follow. It's just a casual attitude. Does this sound any familiar? Do you think that people have a casual attitude when it comes to God? I'm asking. Do you think that people act casually with HaShem? You can. You can't. Is that the attitude? In fact, I would say yes. That would be my opinion. And I should say, if someone doesn't act casually with God, in other words, if you attempt to be particular, then you're labeled a legalist. You have religion. Religion is a curse word these days. You religious person. Not realizing, of course, that if you look up the definition of religion, anybody who believes in God is a religious person, literally. But I know, silly me, bringing in facts and stuff like that. I don't know why I do that. It's just a habit. Anyway, so let's go back to here. If you behave casually with me and refuse to heed me, then I shall lay a further blow upon you. So let's look what Rabbi Monk says. He says, if you behave casually with me, the word keri means casually, signifying something that happens by chance or occasionally. Thus, it refers to people who who observe God's commandments only on occasion. Rashi also quotes the view of Menachem, who translates keri as withhold, which is consistent with onkelos. In this sense, the text refers to those who harden their hearts and withhold themselves from drawing closer to God. However, both Rambam and Rabbeinu Bachya share the first opinion, which is, of course, expressed by Rashi, which means that you're just obeying God occasionally. I would throw into the mix there, with respect to occasionally, I would say I think that this could apply to those who keep the commandments that they agree with, that they like, that they enjoy. Good morning, Michelle. Good to see you this morning. Coffee Porch Ponderer. I think you've been here before, right? So anyway, sorry about that. I was checking the chat. So yeah, I think that that would apply to these people. So let's go back to this section we want to focus on today. Good morning, Brenda. So when I eliminate your every source of bread, that's what we read earlier. And remember there that the word for source is mate, which is a staff. Okay. So in the Kehot Chumash, it says this: when I eliminate your every source of food. So bread is a euphemism in general for food. So give us this day our daily bread. Okay, Melissa, sorry. Coffee Porch Ponderer is Melissa, Roy Johnson's wife. Well, thank you for letting us know that, Melissa. Welcome to the program. So bread is a euphemism for food, and therefore give us this day our daily bread is a euphemism for food in general. So it says here in the commentary, bread is a metaphor for the Torah. Just as bread nourishes the body, the Torah nourishes the soul. That's true. I would also argue, however, that Torah literally nourishes the entire person. But that doesn't take away from the commentary. I believe that the studying of the Torah literally affects in a positive way our physical being. So it's the Torah in its present manifestation, say manifestation. There's lots of thoughts and themes in this commentary today that I want you to pick up on as it relates to Yeshua, okay? The Torah has a manifestation. So it says the Torah in its present manifestation, as we know it, is a fallen version of the original. Now, this concept is really an esoteric concept, and it's something that you really, really, really need to get down into your psyche as it relates to the Messiah and why we need the Messiah. Do we need the Messiah so that our personal sins can be forgiven? Anybody want to answer that? Is that why we need the Messiah? So our personal sins can be forgiven? Anybody? No, thank you, Shoshana. Do we need the Messiah? Do we need the Messiah's blood? Because everybody knows that without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sins. Is that true? Chase said yes. No, Chase. Was that yes to the traffic jam? No. Okay. No, you don't, right? Is there a verse? I know it's a bunch of no questions, so everybody's like, we're saying no, but no to what? Is there a verse in the Tanakh anywhere, or the Gospels for that matter, anywhere that says that without shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sins? Anywhere? No. In fact, we find the opposite. We find that forgiveness can be attained just by making teshuvah, by having a broken heart. It's in the Torah portion. We just read it, a couple days ago. It's in this Torah portion where it says, hey, if you're scattered about and you're, lost in the nations, if you have a broken heart, I'll come and redeem you. All right? So, brings us back to our question here. Why do we need the Messiah? Because you've been taught, again, speaking to you euphemistically, you have been taught the reason we need the Messiah is because we need forgiveness of sins. Is that true? No. Is it true that when you become born again, your sins are forgiven and you're made clean and made like a brand new baby and born again and so forth? Well, yes. It's a little confusing. I get it, but that's like a consequence of the event, but not the purpose of the event. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a side benefit, if you will. All right. So here's the real reason why we need the Messiah. Okay. The real reason why we need the Messiah is because we need the restoration of the Torah. We need the restoration of the covenant. We need the restoration, frankly, of what it was like prior to the fall of Adam and Hava and the golden calf. Okay, this is really critically important. The version of the Torah that we have today is, as it says here, a fallen version of the original. Now, this is very important. Everything I say is important, I guess. I keep saying this is important. Anyway, but it's all important. But what I'm trying to get at is that the difference between the Torah that we have now and the Torah that we should have had and the Torah that we're going to have is not with respect to its content, but rather with respect to its substance. Okay? It's very critical. It's amazing to me, by the way, how many Christians will quote Jeremiah 31 and say, see, don't you see? There's a new covenant. Hello? I marvel at several things in life. One of them is how my cat, who is not exactly a young cat, can scale an 8-foot fence like she's jumping over a piece of paper. And along with that is how somebody can read Jeremiah 31 and not see that the covenant is the exact same. It's just that instead of being on tablets of stone, it's on the tablets of your heart. I marvel at those two things, the agility of my cat, who's like a ninja, and the inability of a person to read a passage of scripture which is so crystal clear. But anyway, it says it is in its original form. The Torah does not discuss earthly reality, but rather only describes the spiritual realm. This is what the Midrash means when it tells us that the Torah preceded the creation of the world. Similarly, the Torah studied by the souls that departed and the not yet born in the Garden of Eden does not address physical reality. So, yes, the people who pass away continue to study Torah and so forth, but of course, they're not in physical reality, or at least a reality that we can understand, that we comprehend. And yet they study Torah, but they study a Torah that is devoid of those physical realities. The Torah we see is a dim reflection of that Torah, a translation of its sublimity in earthly terms. Now, before I continue reading this insight, I wanted to read another insight here, because I meant to read this a second ago. It has to do with the fact that Torah is bread. I found this very interesting. This again comes from the K.O. Tumash. It says bread is generally made with wheat, not always, but generally. And the numeric value of the Hebrew word for wheat is 22, which happens to be the number of letters in the Hebrew alphabet with which the Torah is written. The imagery is thus that the wheat, that is the 22 letters used in the study of the Torah, must be baked into the bread, a form in which it can be digested by the soul, that is to say, by the fire of the love of God that we have. I just thought it was interesting that the word for bread, since bread is made from wheat generally, that it would include the 22 letters of the Torah. But going back to our insight, it says this fall, okay, so at what point did we lose the substance of the Torah? Okay. And this is a crucial, because everybody that you know, I'm guessing, who talks about the need for Messiah will always point to the sin of Adam, sin of Adam, sin of Adam, sin of Adam, sin of Adam. Why? Because of Paul, of course, who was a heretic. Paul is not going to mention any problems with the problem at Mount Sinai. Why? Because that would naturally lead to a discussion of the restoration of that covenant, which Paul did not want to have happen. Paul did not want the covenant to be renewed. He did not want the law of Moses to be renewed or restored. He intentionally, knowingly, and willfully made up an entirely different covenant, a completely different religion, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's all falsehood. Let's talk about reality. It says this fall took place when Moses broke the first tablets. When God gave us a Torah at Mount Sinai, we were cleansed of the spiritual impurity the world fell into because of Adam and Eve's sin. So when we were taken out of Egypt by the blood of the Lamb and so forth, that initial Passover, that rectified Adam and Eve's sin. We were good. Okay. It goes on to say, had we not sinned with the golden calf, the Messianic era would have commenced then, and reality would have been elevated to the spiritual plane of the Garden of Eden before the fall. Okay, it's very crucial that you understand what I'm saying to you right now. Are you aware, by the way, that the Garden of Eden is Mount Moriah, the Temple Mount? This is why Yeshua had to go to Mount Moriah to do what he did, because he had to go back to the scene of that original garden experience, now where the light of Torah was shining from, which is Mount Moriah, and renew the covenant there. Okay, so it goes on to say, since we would have existed on this higher spiritual plane had we not sinned with the golden calf, okay, the Torah would not have had to descend and become couched in terms germane to physical reality. So in other words, because we fell, this is so good. Because we fell, the Torah now had to come down and be couched in physical reality, physical matter. Okay? We would have been able, had we not sinned, to understand the Torah as it is written, quote, in heaven, end quote. But when, because of the sin of the golden calf, Moses had to break the tablets, the world descended into its present materialistic state, and our consciousness suffered a committed fall. The Torah fell too, that is, its sublime meaning became couched in physical terms in order to address the physical realities of our world. So the phrase, when I break your staff of bread, thus refers to the breaking of the tablets, which caused the Torah to descend and become garbed in a physical context. So why did the Messiah have to come to us? Because he is the living Torah that had to come and be clothed in physical reality in order to make it possible for us to be elevated to that restoration of covenant in order to receive the Torah in the spiritual reality. It says that so therefore the people that, if you really think about it, the people who reject the law of Moses because, oh, that's not spiritual or whatever, they are literally rejecting the true Messiah. And they don't even know it. Okay? So it says, the term the staff of bread alludes to the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, the source of the Torah. So therefore, the staff of bread, remember what we said, instead of source, the Hebrew word is staff. So why staff of bread? And why is it translated source? Because the staff is the tree of life. The tree of life is the source. So I will break your staff of bread. That's what God is saying. Who's the staff? Who's the tree of life? Yeshua. I'm going to break your staff of bread when you act casually with me. Okay? But remember that the breaking of the tablets was, in a sense, a punishment, yes, but it was also the opportunity for elevation. I've started this program talking about people who take personal responsibility for their mistakes and how that makes the person better and makes the relationship better. And it does. So the irony of life is that very often perfect relationships aren't all that perfect. And the relationships that aren't perfect are usually ones that are most perfect. Friends who never get into a dispute probably aren't all that good of friends, because when something comes up that causes a dispute, they'll probably just stop in their friendship. Friends who are able to go through a dispute and resolve that dispute usually are the best of friends. Okay? There's no husband and wife on the planet that doesn't fight. You know, I have heard people say this before. My wife and I never fight. And I know that, to quote my friend Avi in Israel, they lying. But that's what makes the relationship better. The ability to have an argument and reach a resolution strengthens the relationship. So, using those analogies, going back to this topic, the breaking of the Torah actually led to us being more committed to the Torah. Okay? So it says the breaking of the staff refers to the descent of the Torah from its spiritual context as the tree of life into this present fallen form. This is literally saying that the tree of life had to descend and become part of physical reality so that we would be able to embrace it. What? Yes. So we talk about the Messiah becoming manifest among us. It's a hair's breadth away from what we've just been reading. Okay? The Torah, therefore, tells us how to avoid the pitfall of storing the ideas of Torah in a theoretical corner of our mind. So we're not allowed to just make Torah a theory, which is, of course, what people do. Bake your bread. Just as unbaked flour cannot be absorbed by the body, so the bread of the soul, that is the Torah, cannot be fully absorbed by the student unless it is properly baked into the fire of the soul's love for God and its desire to cleave to him. This is what it means, by the way, when it talks about you have to toil in Torah. Toil, you have to work for it. How many of you know that you appreciate that for which you work for? That for which you toil for? It's just a fact, guys. We all know this. If we're mature adults, we know that when we work for something, we appreciate it more. How many of you, don't raise your hand, but the car that you make payments on, you treat it better than the one that you rent when you're on vacation? Don't raise your hand. You know what I mean? It's a cliche. It's just a rental. But if it's your car, you know, you treat it usually very nice, right? So it says, one can study thousands of pages of Torah and remain unaffected. Boy, isn't that true? We just talked about it. People can read an entire verse about the new covenant and it has no impact on what they don't even know what they read. It's saying here that people can read thousands of pages of Torah and be unaffected. To digest the Torah so that it permeates all of our being, we must invoke our soul's sometimes dormant love of God, the fire that prepares the Torah for human digestion. How do we stimulate this love? Okay. We do it in the oven. That is, which can be read here, in the oven of one. Through meditating on the oneness of God, that nothing truly exists besides him, the oven that contains the fire of love for God is created by meditating on his oneness. So this comes back to the concept of bitikon. We meditate on the fact that God is the sole source of everything, literally everything. Do you realize that this world is like a matrix? When we end this program, most of you are probably sitting down, not all of you, but some of you are sitting down. You're going to stand up and walk across wherever you are, the room or whatever. You're going to be walking through an atmosphere that you can't see, that has oxygen and hydrogen and all this other kind of stuff, right? You can't see it. It's air. That's what I'm trying to get at, whatever the scientific makeup. When you do that, when you walk through that atmosphere, you are literally walking through HaShem, because he's the existence of those molecules, those particles of dust that you can't see. They can only have their reality in him. So when we meditate deeply on the fact that nothing truly exists besides God, we can forsake our love affair with the things of this world and become that cause us to become consumed with materialism, and we can become consumed with a passionate love for God, which we will quench by studying the Torah. The Torah is used as a metaphor, bread, but also water. Therefore, when we have a hunger and thirst, those who hunger and thirst, right, for righteousness shall be filled. This is what Yeshua is talking about. We satiate our hunger and thirst for God by studying and obeying and following the law of Moses. This is what Yeshua was talking about. And finally, one last thing here. In the context of this discussion about the bread and baking the bread, it talks about women, okay? So it says in male-female imagery, the female is the recipient. The female receives. And this is why the Satan, he gets up, the Satan confuses everything. You hear a lot of men talking about, I want to receive honor. I want to be given honor, given respect, given authority, whatever, right? But if you look at the male anatomy, the male is the giver and the female is the receiver, okay? So the female can only give that which has been given to her, okay? So if the man is out there saying, well, I want somebody to give me respect, give me honor, give me this, then you're acting like a girl. You need to give, and what you give, you will receive. That's the male-female dichotomy. But it goes on to say, in male-female imagery, the female is the recipient. When our love for God is evoked, we must keep it feminine. That is to mean we must remember that it is granted to us by God. We are only the recipients of this feeling of love. We did not create it. So we can't take pride in that I have such a passionate love for God. The reason we have such a passionate love for God is because God has given us that love. That's why, obviously, those of us who are on this planet, some of us are male and some of us are female, but in the spiritual context, those of us who are on this planet are all spiritually female, not literally. Don't misunderstand. I don't want anybody to, we're not this, there's no, we all know what bathroom to use. Okay. Trust me. But I'm talking here in a spiritual sense. This is why Yeshua is the groom. It's in a spiritual sense. So whatever love we have for God, whatever understanding we have for God, we have received from God. So therefore we can't take pride in it. End of our Aliyah today. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate your involvement today. Please be sure and subscribe to this channel if you have not yet done so. Like this video, share it with all of your friends. Get on the channel and start watching some content if you would. That helps the channel. Listen, you say, well, I haven't watched all the videos. Hey, watch a video today. Watch 2, watch 10. Watch some of the shorts and be sure and like them and share them. All of this helps the channel. So the more you watch, the more you interact with the videos, the more people see them. So I'm going to encourage all of you to do that. Thank you so much for being here. May you have a blessed and wonderful day. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, Shalom Aleichem.